Welcome to Plant-Based on Fire, the podcast that ignites your passion for plant-based businesses. Real Men Eat Plants is proud to host this show, where we shine a spotlight on the latest and greatest plant-based companies making waves in the industry. From startups to established brands, we'll explore what sets these businesses apart, what challenges they've faced, and what their vision for a more sustainable and ethical food future looks like. So if you're hungry for some fresh insights, inspiring stories, and a healthy dose of entrepreneurial spirit, then join us on Plant-Based on Fire, brought to you by Real Men Eat Plants.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Plant-Based on Fire, where we are here to talk about plant-based businesses and their inspiring stories to thrive in the industry. I'm your host, Brian, and joining us today is Ray Ortega, a pioneer in the plant-based sector with over 30 years of experience, and he is the founder of Sunflower Baking Co. Welcome to the show, Ray.
Hi, how you doing, Brian? And I'm also the founder and creator of Alternative Baking Company. Did you know that?
Awesome. I did not. I guess, well, we'll see. I have a few notes here. I want to unpack that. Okay. I've been pouring through your website for the past half an hour, drooling over all the cookies that you have available. So I want to talk about the cookies because I'm so excited about that. But talk to me about, just hit me with your journey. What brought you to this and what inspired you to embark on this and build these companies?
Well, I'll give you the nutshell version. Basically, what happened is I stopped eating eggs when I was 16 because of health reasons. I was sick all the time. And one of the things that I found that I was doing repetitively was eating eggs. I used to eat eggs like nobody's business. You know, I grew up poor, and eggs is the thing you go to. You know, as a poor child, poor kid, poor family.
Yeah.
And then I realized after hitting the books of how bad they were for you. I started reading. Oddly enough, I started reading about it at a very young age, how horrible it is. So I stopped eating eggs when I was 16. And then I had to face the fact that eggs were in everything. Eggs were in cookies, all my favorites.
They are.
Cakes and muffins. I'm like, oh my, the realization of that really hit me hard. But I was so tired of the headaches. I mean, you have to weigh how you feel versus what you're giving up in this type of situation. So I gave up eggs and everything associated with eggs at the age of 16. I used to be a big McDonald's sausage McMuffin with eggs kind of guy, and I had to come to the realization that was actually easier than giving up cookies and cakes and muffins and stuff. So fast forward, as my transition, that's the beginning of my transition, so to speak. About 7 years later, 1993 or 4, I actually stopped eating. I stopped eating meat and dairy, and I transitioned from vegetarian. I lost 95 pounds between 92 and 94. I know it was crazy, but I still hadn't had a cookie. So I got a job at the Sequin and Natural Foods Co-op. I just happened to be, because I was on the health kick, I think when we were at that time, 1994, you're like, are these hippie stores? I was no hippie. Okay. But I found the hippie stores, and I was like, I actually remember how hippie the Sacramento Natural Foods Co-op was. I was like, I didn't want to be associated. I was actually embarrassed of being a hippie, but I could, So once I found this cookie who I had, the war was over. I got out of construction. I had taken a year off. I had made enough money to take a break. And I was like, okay, I'm running out of money. So I had to get a job, which was one of my first few jobs. I got a job at the Sac Co-op. Once I found this cookie, I had to have it. I got taught baking, and then vegan baking. And then I said, oh my gosh, I could make a business out of this. Even though I had no idea what I was doing about vegan baking, I just didn't care. I was like, once I started to realize I was vegan, I thought to myself, everybody's got to have one of these cookies, because they were just as good as anything. They were soft and chewy, but they had a really short shelf life. So I had to commercialize what I found. I had to commercialize. It was not ready for commercialization. But the world, oddly, was in 1994. Oddly, I was surprised on, I think in a very short time, within 2.5 to 3 years, I was first on my own for about a year. And then I realized people, when I started selling the cookies, how people were open to it. Although I always often tell people that one of the hard things was people used to think they were going to be just cardboard cookies. So everybody was so familiar with the cardboard tasting cookies, in the 70s and 80s. Oh, it's going to taste like cardboard. I'm like, no, this one's different. This one's different. So I think that I have a convincing personality to sell. I think I'm a decent salesperson. So I would, what also happens, you get to give the cookies away. So you have to convince people. The only way you can is giving eggs. So I got a couple partners, regrettably so. I started my first bakery in 1994. Alternative Baking Company was my first. I was alone for a year, and then I figured I can't do this on my own. But I was pretty naive. I was really naive, in fact, in 1994, and I made the mistake of getting partners, which I think a lot of people do. And then it didn't go so well, but it was going well. That was the weird part. It was going really well, and I was, oh my gosh, I think I'm onto something. So 3 years passed. Then I started Sunflower Baking Company, and then I just kept going. I fail or succeed, I didn't care. I was more like, I'm going to do this vegan business. This is 1997, right? And still in 1997, it was still an unknown thing. Still hardly any cookie companies, maybe one. And so I thought, I'm going to keep going. So I just kept going, and I reformulated, and I think that my cookies today are even better than they ever have been and were. And I think they continue to evolve. And interestingly enough, cookies, they all come in different sizes. So my margins were slimmer back in 94, but the cost of everything was different. I think that my cookies were 4 ounce. Now they're 3 ounce. The margins, I had to have margin. I had to make money in order to keep going. And never realizing that it was going to be bigger than I thought it was going to be.
I mean, it's evolved so much over the past 30 years, right? Like, gosh, you've seen the blossoming of everything over the past 30 years.
It's been weird. You're vegan. I assume you're vegan, right? So it's been 30 years. Hard vegan, 30 years, never looking back, driven strictly by passion. Oddly, it wasn't about money. It was never about money.
Yeah.
It was, although I knew that I had to have the money, it wasn't as important as I was glad to be healthy. I was glad to be happy. I was glad to be able to spread the word through this way. I wanted to show people, hey, you can still have good tasting food and be happy.
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been doing this 13 years now, so you got me almost by double here. And it's changed significantly. So
it changed.
For sure. And I feel like that's like the unique thing that's hard to tell people. Like, I do some business coaching, things like that, and it's just hard to describe the niche of plant-based and vegan-oriented businesses in a big way. So what has kept you going for the past 30 years on this, and what would you attribute to sort of the success of the vegan cookie brand? And later on, I think you own 5 different plant-based brands now, right?
I own a couple of now, but I co-pack for other plant-based brands. So over the years, I've run into, I've made 5 or 6 other companies, their brands. People come to me, they say, hey, I got this idea. I've had a lot of companies come to me and say, hey, can you make something with eggs and butter? And in the millions of contracts. And and I'm like, something's wrong with me. Because it wasn't that as important to me as hey, I can't put Drano in people's cookies as much as I can put egg. And so my mentality was, I cannot put crap. I cannot knowingly put something into my cookie, make a profit from it, and be happy. It just didn't sit well with me. So I passed on somebody, but then in the meantime, other people have come. They've come and go. I have 2 companies that I have one other one that I just acquired last year, Mishi's Cookies. And then they're in Ralph's. And then I have had Rock and Raw, who she's done very well 15 years. I've I actually babied her or held her hand for the most part for something that she started. And then I said, hey, this is the way to do it. This is how you need to do it. Just follow this, follow my same lead of my path, and then you'll be successful. And she's successful. She does very well. And right now I do her rock and roll, and I do Renewal Mills. I just started co-packing for them about a year or two ago, and everybody has started leaning. Well, I do gluten-free stuff. I do both, but gluten-free and everything's segregated. But then I decided, you know what? This isn't always everything that I want to do. I think one of the things that I always wanted to do is get this food into people's mouths. And one of the types of food, I ended up building a plant-based cannabis facility because I thought I'm not going to leave any stones unturned. And I thought, I'm going to take the same concept and try to do it in cannabis. And it didn't. And it hasn't done well, only because of the regulations and problems that are in business associated with California. But it's something that I'm starting to regrow. The margins are horrible. The tax issue is terrible. The business relation in the cannabis industry is almost completely dead and wrong. But they're fixing them. The red tape is a slow fix with cannabis, and I'm not a huge user. I used to have actually an alcohol license too, and I had a funny feeling about that. There's sometimes when I get into these things, I'm not always thinking like, I won't. My main goal is a vegan. My passion is vegan, whatever. I mean, when I had an alcohol license, I had vegan beers, I had vegan wines. It was all something that was something to do with the plant-based vegan, and that was my thing. So I said, vegan.
That's right.
What are the odds?
Very cool.
I had a vegan restaurant as well for 5 years.
And there's one more thing I want to ask you about that too, but we're going to take a really quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
All right, if you've ever wanted to show off your plant-based lifestyle and do it in style, here's your chance. We have some of the most amazing t-shirts, hats, accessories, coffee mugs, and more at shop.realmeneatplants.com. We have statement t-shirts that will bring a smile to everyone's face. I love the I Want Tofu Tonight tee. Plus, we have podcast tees, Real Women Eat Plants gear, Real Kids Eat Plants, and Real People Eat Plants, just in case men, women, and kids didn't cover it all. Yeah, we love you and love that you want to show off that healthy lifestyle of yours. Again, check out our high-quality gear at shop.realmeneatplants.com and enjoy.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break. And I think you are also an author. Have you published a couple children's books?
So I got a wild hair up in my ear, and I thought, you know what? What happened was when I became vegan, I had started having more clarity in my mind. My brain started functioning like never before. I started seeing things different. I started drawing.
Absolutely.
I started writing. I mean, I was like, something is wrong with me or right with me. I started thinking something happened to me, like boom. So I said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to publish a couple of books. I'm not a well-educated person, but I figured, I'm going to teach myself how to do all this stuff. So I learned Illustrator and Photoshop.
Yeah.
I got a graphic designer, Amanda Mokel, and then there was a Benji Beansprout who eats meat, who I published. It's not my book, but I published that book for her. So I decided to say I'm going to publish a couple of books so people can take me a little more seriously. I think that's part of the issue with being uneducated and vegan, and is because I think that vegetarians and vegans, I don't think that they're looked at, or they weren't looked at as seriously as they are today. I think it's a much different. Yeah, it's much different than it used to be by far. I am wherever I go, I am the guy who has vegan businesses. Believe it or not, and I'm the vegan guy. But you know what? Plant the seed.
Absolutely. You do not seem dumb at all to me on any level, since you realized this so long ago. You're building multiple businesses. So a big kudos to you. I speak with so many businesses that are trying to get into this food thing and stuff like that. Like, what's the sort of tips and tricks as people are looking for co-packers, they're looking for all those kinds of things, and what does that sort of product life cycle look like for you?
Well, interestingly enough, one of the most important factors in my mind when you do go look for anyone who wants to make stuff for you in the vegan realm is that they are,
Hmm.
it may not be important to everybody, but it's important to me to have a dedicated equipment on. Because as you'll see, there's a lot of disclaimers on everything now these days for every allergen you can possibly think of. And for myself,
Right.
it's animal products. And you have to investigate. You may think and get all happy and like, oh my gosh, I found somebody who does this X, Y, and Z. But you know what? Guess what? They're processing eggs, they're processing butter, they're processing dairy, all that stuff. And then also the minimums are also a kind of a hurdle, for some of these larger companies who I like to always help people get started out on a smaller scale. And I try to I used to do it free, but I can't do it free anymore. It's just too much work. I mean, because you get a lot of people who have a lot of dreams and who want to do a lot of stuff and who have good intentions, but it doesn't always pan out, especially when they find out how hard it is or how hard it can be.
Yeah.
And now, believe me, when I first started this, I didn't even know C&H sugar was filtered with bone char. So there was a lot of things you have to learn. Some vanillas were made with beaver anus, some artificial. I mean, I'm like, geez, man, there's a lot of education. But it's a lot. We didn't have the internet in 1994. I think you were born in 1994. You look like a pretty young guy.
No, I'm a Star Wars baby. It was a long time ago, but yeah.
80s, right? So you have to you have to back then. You had to figure this out only by books, going to the library.
That's right. That's right.
And that's how I did it. Just investigate.
That's awesome. Well, how do you the parent of Plant Based on Fire is Real Men Eat Plants. So as a fellow real man eating the plants, how have you addressed the misconceptions about plant-based diets and helped businesses overcome these stereotypes? Any words of wisdom there for us?
Yeah. Yes, I will give you a nutshell version of that. First of all, I grew up as manly as I could be pushed to be the man of the Mexican world. I was like, if you didn't eat meat, you're not a man. You know what I mean? That's how it was. Yeah. And I had some shame. I was shamed. I was embarrassed. I felt inadequate. I felt like when I became vegan, I was coming out of the closet in that way, like, oh my gosh, you're losing your manhood by being vegetarian. It was almost like, it's just not good. But and if you ask me, you have to have the cojones to be this way. It takes more effort and guts, I want to say, to be plant-based. You have to, because you look at what you have to do. You have to go into a restaurant. You have to order in front of several people who aren't. You have to, sometimes you feel stupid and you're asking, oh, is there any butter in that? Or is there any dairy in that? You have to have some guts. You have to be more of a man, if you ask me, to be plant-based. You really do.
I agree completely.
Yeah.
Thank you. So you've been doing this for a long while now. So I'm just so curious, how have you measured the impact? I mean, you've been a contributing factor on so many levels, so many different ways, it sounds like. How are you measuring your success and sort of showcasing that you're a strong voice of change on this planet?
Well, I definitely feel more respected. You know what I mean? I think that people, when they see me coming, that I'm at least I'm a presence when I come around anyone who's not vegan or vegetarian or even somebody's always saying, I'm changing, or I eat so little meat, or I don't eat that much, or my grandma doesn't eat that much, or my grandma. So when I come into a room and people know of me, it plants the seed. Like I'm a presence, and I think that's my starter. That's my starter thing. I think that all of us, we need to be a presence, whether we like it or not. And I don't care about being mocked anymore. I'm all standing up for myself. I'm 220 now, I think, ish. And I am almost 6 foot, 5'11", and so I still have a presence of my size, and so I'm still I'm still a force to be reckoned with, so to speak. But my business aspect helps. You know what I mean? Like, okay, let me shut you down. This is why it's XYZ is good for you. XYZ is profitable. You can still make money. but you have to be willing to take it's a sacrifice in some ways. You have to be able to take the risks of it all. I think that once you understand and absorb the risks, then the rest is really easy. As long as you feel like you can stand on your own, have the confidence and the strength to back yourself up in any way, shape, and form, either by business or just being a little bit. You got to be a little intimidating. I mean, that's right. Sorry, sometimes just got to be.
I like you summarized it so well, because even non-plant-based businesses, like I coach so many of them, and I tell them, like, look, you have got to focus on your primary thing. Like you're spreading yourself too thin. You're trying to do too many things. Like focus on the one thing. And I think I commend you on your efforts to not take on the egg producing and the milk guys that want those things for some easy money. You stuck true to your ground there. As you look back on the many decades you've been doing this now, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your journey in the plant-based world?
I would say the know of people still eating these cookies, and the sales that it has in the mainstream world. I mean, I am in thousands of accounts, and I see them cross my path, and it's amazing to me who's ordering these things still. It's all mainstream now. It's all, I mean, it's nobody's holding back. I mean, we just have to, but the product has to be great. I mean, it has to be good, but it should be great. Because if you don't have a great product or a good product, you're going to turn people off, and they're going to always have that stigma. Cardboard cookies, cardboard.
Yeah. So tell us more. I am the biggest cookie monster ever, so I'm so excited. I'm going to place an order for these cookies right after we hang up.
I'll send you some. Don't even worry about it.
And where do we find these cookies? Are they in any of my local stores around here? What's the website? How do we get in touch with Ray and the delicious cookies?
Where are you anyway? Where are you located?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina. So.
Oh my gosh, you're kidding me. Yeah. Is there even a Whole Foods there? Is there a Whole Foods or Trader Joe's?
Charlotte is, I'm proud to say, Charlotte is the 15th biggest city in America now. So we have got everything here.
Shocking. So, I'm sorry, I haven't done my homework on that one. But basically,
you got to come visit. It's a slice of heaven here. So.
I'm there, man. Count me in. Really, you can only get my stuff online at this point. I have pulled out of stores. I took a kind of a break to relaunch I relabeled. I redid everything in the last few years. Pandemic was a disaster. I got all my accounts pulled from me. I mean, it was horrible. In some ways, I'm starting over again, but for the most part, either Amazon, you can buy gift back. But actually, on Amazon, you can buy everything. And my website is Sunflower Baking, spelled like the baking flour, FLOUR. That's where you can get. I do mainly mail order. I have some accounts nationwide, but not as. I don't know where they all. I have this one distributor who just distributes thousands, and I can't even keep track. I have to start doing that, and it's going to be a ton of work. I'm proud to say that I have mainstream U.S. foods. I have a lot of mainstream distributors, but they don't tell me where the accounts are, in fear that I might try to gobble them up, which I told them I would. Yeah. But that's their business, you know. I can't step on their toes.
Yeah. It's interesting to realize how many middlemen are in the middle sometimes.
It's just wow. Yes, I'm surprised, but I'm glad too.
That is awesome. Is there any other businesses that you want to mention the website on or something like that? It's Sunflower Baking, the flour that you put in your cookies.
Yeah, I thought it was being. What's that word? Fun. Just trying. I thought flour.
I think you should just register sunflower spelled the other way as well and point it so that way they could type either one in.
Oh no. There's a lot of other sunflowers out there, and thankfully some of the sunflowers, FLOWER, have put me on their website. But it's a really tiny, in some cases, and it's like vegan cookies on the bottom of the screen. It's good, you know. At least I know I have shaken up some of the world somewhat.
Well, I know my daughter absolutely loves mint chocolate chips, so I'm gonna order some of the mint chocolate chip ones for her for sure. And I'm looking forward to trying the banana nut one I saw on your website. Yeah. They all look delicious, Ray. We really appreciate you being on the show and providing some good wisdom on how to build and grow a vegan business like you have for the many years you've been doing it. And I hope you come back whenever you're launching a new cookie or something and tell us all about it. But that's
More
sort of
coming.
all the time we have for this episode.
Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this episode of Plant Based on Fire. Thank you again, Ray, so much. And you can check him out at sunflowerbaking.com. So check that out, order some cookies, and share your insights and experiences with us and Ray. Until next time, everybody, let's keep that fire burning.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Plant Based on Fire. We hope you enjoyed learning about the innovative plant-based businesses we featured today and got inspired to support them on their journey. Remember, plant-based eating isn't just a trend. It's a way of life that benefits your health, the environment, and animals. By choosing plant-based foods, you're making a positive impact on the world and helping to create a better and more compassionate future. If you want to join the Real Men Eat Plants community and get even more resources to help you go and stay plant-based, check out our blog, podcasts, and 30-day challenge at realmeneatplants.com. Thank you for tuning in to Plant Based on Fire, brought to you by Real Men Eat Plants. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us a review, and let us know what you think of this episode. Don't forget to tag us at Plant Based on Fire when you share this episode in your preferred social media. Wish to be a guest? We need to know about your plant-based business. Email us at pbof@realmeneatplants.com. We love hearing from our listeners. Thank you to our guests and to you, our listeners, for your support, and see you next time.